Hey there, Maria Romano here with From Love to Legacy. Because love, leadership, and growth aren't separate, they're connected. Here, we focus on building businesses, relationships, and lives with impact.
If you want better results, stronger relationships, and a legacy that lasts, you're in the right place. Welcome to From Love to Legacy with Maria Romano, where leadership and real-world results meet human connection. Because how you lead and how you love today becomes the legacy you leave tomorrow.
Good morning, everybody. Maria Romano here from Love to Legacy. Well, let me tell you today, I have a special guest on. As you know, I enjoy the wedding industry because that's what I've been involved with for the past 15 years. But also in my prior life, as you know, I was in the rental car business for many years with my late husband. And I love to come across people that really take their passion and they expand it, they stretch it, and they actually are they stepping into their alignment, their purpose of doing what they enjoy doing. And I think when you enjoy what you're doing, what happens is abundance just flows because you definitely are flourishing, thriving, and your energy is out there. So today we have Mark Bentley all the way from North Carolina, right? Correct?
That's it, Raleigh, North Carolina.
I put on special perfume just for you. So you know that in Vegas, we smell great. And my other little redhead, Rosie, is sitting down there in the corner. She is my golden retriever. So if she barks, everybody, please. She definitely is a woman that has a lot of words to say. And Mark has a really interesting background. In 2023, he acquired, if I'm correct on those dates, Mark, Forever and Company, which is a wedding industry company that actually goes out and puts on events that's known as wedding shows, where they're actually going after the wedding industry. You are attracting couples that are looking to get married. And then, of course, you need the vendors to come and exhibit. But looking at further in his background, he was in the branding business for many years. And we all know branding is a very hot topic, very important that you stay on brand with who you are, as well as marketing. So, Mark, welcome. And I want you to expand a little bit when you have a moment. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Maria. Excited to connect with you and appreciate you reaching out.
So tell me, you started off on the marketing side and the event side, because I see you have a couple of different companies.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely an entrepreneur. My background has always been around events, and I've been doing events now for over 17 years, and all sorts of different types of events, but primarily, actually, my background is in nonprofit events. I've done a lot of nonprofit fundraisers, conferences, retreats. Through that, really developed a knack and an understanding on the marketing side. And so out of that, that's where the marketing arm came out, and just helping our clients tell their story. An event is a method in which to do that. But nowadays, between video and social media and websites and everything else, there's a lot of ways that you can tell your story. And those are super important, especially for a nonprofit trying to raise funds and get their story out there. And then that led me to August of 2023, where I was able to purchase Forever and Company. It's been around for 31 years now. That is a wedding trade show company that really is a combination of both events and marketing, which are my two understandings. So it made sense to me right away, and I was excited to jump in and to learn more about the wedding space.
And it looks like it's not just in that triangle area that you're doing events as well, because you also have branched out to Las Vegas. What made you decide to take that leap?
Yeah, so Forever and Company has been a successful and productive company, like I said, now for 31 years. But like a lot of, especially event organizations, COVID was just really tough on it. And so the company was really struggling. And the owners who had started it were the founders, been doing it for over 25 years at that point. Were understandably just ready to move on. And so there was an opportunity to come in, a business that had done well, but was currently struggling, to try to see if we can bring it back to life. And I'm a big believer in experiences. Like I said, I mean, events are something I really care deeply about. It's not the only thing I do, but I do understand them really well. And as people, as humans, we were created for experiences. We were created to be able to be in community and connection with each other. And that's really important. And no matter how great the internet and AI and everything else gets, it's never going to be able to replace that need for that human interaction and connection. And that's one of the many reasons I love events. And so I stumbled across Forever and Company, and the owners and our visions and hearts just aligned with what they've built and what I was doing in the event space, and saw an opportunity with a little TLC to get this thing back on track. And through that, we had a 3-phase approach. When I purchased the company, we wanted to do more than just a few shows in the Raleigh-Durham area here in what we call the Triangle in North Carolina. And so that included first really learning the business, taking my event marketing knowledge to the specific niche of wedding trade shows and making sure I understood the nuances of it, the value we could provide both our wedding professionals and for the couples attending. The second part was then to rebuild it in a way that was repeatable and scalable. And that was really important. As a marketing company, as an entrepreneur, everything we do is extremely data driven. We describe it like we're building a franchise of restaurants where when you walk in, whether you're in Vegas and Raleigh or California or wherever it is exactly the same. The recipe is the same. The burger's the same. The experience is the same. That's really important. And so the third was then to branch out and start these other businesses or these other cities or franchises, if you will, in other cities. So it's not a franchise model. We own it all, but I think it models that really well where we're working to grow and expand. And so Vegas was an opportunity that we're part of something called the Wedding Show Producers International, WSPI. And we learned about an opportunity in Vegas that we decided to come in and say, let's try this as our test market to see if what we built here in the Triangle can be repeated in a different city. And we came to Vegas January 10th of this year, 2026, and we're excited to try it. And we were very, very pleased with the results. It turned out really well. And it validated, at least through this first show, that our model does work in a different city. Our marketing model was the same. Our show model was the same. Our communication model was the same. And by all metrics, we felt like it was a success. So we're excited to build more. We've just added our August Las Vegas wedding show. And so now we have 2 a year in Las Vegas in August and January. And then the hope is as we do this, our vision is we'll have 50 shows in different cities and states in the next 5 to 7 years. So we're aggressively growing and adding more shows as we continue to build it.
Well, I love what you said, first of all, which everything you said, I echo. But when you talked about nothing is going to replace the feeling and being with other people and that experience, and everything is all about the experience, as we know.
Yep.
And I think what's interesting is even our younger generation is getting us to really recognize this. Everything is an instantaneous world, which we know we can't do everything instantaneous. Yeah. But they're getting us to recognize that, especially they call them the Gen Zs, the Zoomers. They are the type, they're looking for that experience. So even when they're looking to get married, so they're going to a trade show. When they walk into a trade show, there has to be a great experience for them. And I think that the consumer today has demanded that from us to provide, a great level of service. You walk into Starbucks, right? You walk into Dunkin' Donuts. I'm just saying in general, doesn't have to be the wedding industry, but people like that experience and people like that interaction. So I so agree with you. And I think it's something I want to just back up for a moment. You said you started a nonprofit, working with nonprofits, which near and dear to my heart, just so that, as a matter of fact, Lent just started. I'm Catholic and we have Catholic charities come in. We raise money for, the homeless people that are Meals on Wheels. And I just love that. Right. What made you decide to start in that area? What intrigued you?
Yeah, I love that you asked that. And similar to you, I'm a Christian. I grew up in a Christian family. And then when I was old enough, I was able to understand who this person of Jesus Christ was and what he has done for us and the love that he has given us and the need that we have for him. And ever since then, it's shaped my entire life. And so as I grew and developed in my professional skills, I realized 2 things. One, that God had created me to be able to help organize things, He created me as a visionary to be able to think ahead and figure out what problems are going to come up, and then as a problem solver to help solve those problems. And all credit and glory to him on that. And then two, I found that we have amazing nonprofits that are doing meaningful work that our communities need, that are really struggling to understand how to run it as a organization. And so I wanted to come alongside them and really be able to help increase their ability to be efficient as an organization, which will increase the impact they can have as a nonprofit. And started out kind of small as a consultant in that space, but just saw how great the need was, saw the impact we were able to make, and developed that over the years. Went from more of a holistic consultant to really dialing in and focusing on the event space, because I saw how impactful, if we can help them do good events and raise real dollars, what that can do to all their other areas as an organization. But all that to say is, yeah, I feel like I had some skills to be able to help, but more importantly, I felt certainly it was a calling. And so you touched on that really well, and I appreciate your premise within even this podcast of being able to connect with people in their callings and why they have those callings. And that is so critical to everything I do in my life. Is it's not driven by money. It's not driven by success. It's driven by my faith and my ability to glorify God in what I do, but also to serve my community and to help those, both, my micro community and my family and my friends, but my larger community within the cities and the states and even the country in that we live, on how we can help and serve those as well too. And that's why I love the wedding business as well too. Is one, weddings are near and dear to God's heart, but two, it's very community centric. It's both in the industry side, but even in the nature of what a wedding is, of being able to come together and bring your friends and family to help celebrate this important moment and this important commitment that you're making. And then as I've gotten into it and learned within the wedding business, just how well wedding professionals work together in that community, and what that community looks like and how they lift each other up. Because to pull off a great wedding, you don't need one wedding professional. You need a team of them. You need your florist and your baker and your venue and your DJ and your photographer, and they all have to work together in partnership, hopefully with a great wedding planner, to be able to put on this amazing wedding. And it really takes a community mindset. And even in the marketing and in the event side of it, we lean into that. And as we build our shows, what we have found is that the purest form of a wedding show is actually just a group of wedding professionals coming together, pooling all their marketing resources so that they can have a greater ROI in their marketing efforts when they do it together than when they do it individually. We spend about $25,000 per show with the goal of getting 1,000 attendees into that show. And in order to do that, all of the vendors, the 100 plus vendors we have, come and pay their booth fees, where they're not having to spend $25,000. They're spending pennies on a dollar compared to that. But what they're getting is qualified leads that they get to talk to face for 4 hours, that they otherwise would not be able to get for the amount of money that they're putting in if they just try to do it on their own. And so we see ourselves as a steward in that process. And so to bring it all the way back, is there's a mechanical to this and the structure, but you ask why we do it. We do it because we want to have an impact. We want to glorify God, but we want to serve our community and serve it well.
And what's interesting, you said that stewardship is so important. And sometimes we don't recognize that. There's always a higher level, higher purpose of what's guiding us to what we're doing. And I totally understand that becoming a wedding officiant's opened up my eyes to the world and to love, especially in Las Vegas. But let's just take a moment here. What are your thoughts? Because we're hearing buzz that weddings are down. And I know in Vegas, we have had about an 8% decrease in wedding ceremonies. And then we're hearing this buzz, Mark, about, Gen Z's not getting married. We know millennials are getting married later. We're very much aware of that. You still have baby boomers and not millennials, and you have Gen X that are getting married, and you're going to have this alpha generation coming up. So what's your thoughts? Have you heard anything on where the wedding industry is going to grow over the next, let's say, I don't want to say just this year, the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I hear a lot of speculation. I'm not going to pretend to be a expert and being able to anticipate the trends of where it's going. There's a speculation I can share and talk about, but what I can't talk about is my own personal understanding and experience. And what I mean by that is I think there will always be ups and downs, but I think holistically the wedding industry will always be strong because at the end of the day, the way we were designed and the purpose we have, wedding is central to that. And as someone who's married myself, Maria, I'm so sorry to hear about your late husband, but obviously I hear that you, of course, have been married as well too, and understand marriage. There's something that is so incredibly rich and special about that. That if you haven't experienced it, you don't know it until you experience it, and that love and that commitment to another person, but also just the way that it changes everything about life in that moment. And so talking from that experience, yeah, we're going to have ups and downs, but marriage will always be here. Weddings will always be here. I don't think that's going away. That's not a trend or a fad that will come and go. It's been around since the beginning of time, and will be around to the end of time. And so I think the speculation I hear and the research I've done is it's definitely tied very much to the economy, which makes sense because it's not cheap, and just the portion of the wedding. And this is a little bit of counter intuitive to what we do, but I think marriage and weddings are so important that you don't have to have $50,000 or $100,000 to go and get married either. And obviously in Vegas, that's something where people will go and just get married for very cheap, or go down to the courthouse or to a wedding chapel. But there's also something beautiful about celebrating with your friends. So there's a place for both. I'm not saying don't do it, but my hope is that weddings will always continue to thrive. And if people are saying, I just can't do it yet for financial purposes, it's much easier to struggle with finances with your best friend when you're married, in my opinion, than try to solve all that to get everything right. Things will never be right. But marriage is always good. So unfortunately, I don't have any X's and O's on that, but I'm not worried about it. I do think it's going to be, I think it's going to be something that's always going to be around.
And and to sit, and to add to that, you're right, because what people are actually creating, whether it's a short ceremony and something where they come to Vegas and they celebrate amongst themselves, or they have a large wedding ceremony, this is a legacy of love. And I think that's where people sometimes forget. And, I work with a few different accounts here in Las Vegas myself. And one of the things is, one of the regrets that couples will say, they're sorry that they did not have a videographer, for example. iPhone is great. We can use our iPhones, but it's not the same thing spending just a little bit more to have that legacy, because that legacy is something you leave on later on. You talked about the florist, right? They, that couple might save a boutonniere. And then one day, maybe one day, one of the partners is no longer here. They're widow or widower, and they open up that box and they see that boutonniere. Those are legacies of love. These are droplets that we're leaving that are also we are also providing them for generations, to say that this is what it's about. Relationships, whether you're married or not, it's all about relationships. I think that's the key thing in life. Getting back to what you said about AI versus, meeting people in real life and having interaction. Nothing is going to take the place of that. So I have one more question for you, because I want to be mindful of your time. I can talk to you for hours. I think you're fabulous.
Yeah, well, thank you.
One of the things I do want to talk about, do you think, what would you say is the difference from looking on the outside in when you are dealing with vendors and talking about the ROIs, when they need to understand that what do you think takes the browsing couple to the buying couple? What do you think to be a good vendor? Do that?
I think the simple answer on that is trust, for sure. Trust. And I think that's one of the beauties of a wedding show is, this is, to your point, this is a special day. It's going to happen once in your life, of being able to get married to that partner. And you want to be able to have the legacies, as you mentioned, the memories that you mentioned. And so it's an important day. With that, it's not the end all be all either, right? There's things that go wrong. There's mistakes that happen, and that's also life. And what a great way to start a life together where mistakes are going to happen, where you're maybe, seeing that happen on your wedding day. But with that, whether things are going perfect or mistakes are happening, you want to know the person that's helping you put that event on and celebrating that event is someone that you can trust to manage that in that process. Trust in, one, do they show up? Do they show up on time? Two, are they going to problem solve? We'll pick on a videographer since you brought it up for a second. Are their batteries charged? Did they remember their SD card? Do they understand how to do lighting in this situation when the sun changes and it's in the tent or in the venue versus being outside when the direct sun? And there's a lot of nuances to each of the skills that put on a great event and a great experience that are really important. And I've been fooled, and I'm sure everyone else can relate, by one thing or another on a really well-designed website or a great social media channel. And so that can help give you an indicator, but it's really hard to fully trust that. But looking someone in their eyes and talking to them for even if it's 2 or 3 minutes is a whole different ballgame. And so the process we always share when we talk about our shows is, first and foremost, a wedding show is a tool in your marketing plan. Is not your marketing plan in and of itself. So it's super helpful. It's really good ROI, but there's other things you should do around with it. It's not a silver bullet. It's not going to solve all your needs. But what we have found is the people that do the wedding shows consistently and have the most success for it. The process that they bring is that when they have people come by their booth, they get them to sign up for appointments. They collect their leads. At our shows, we send all the leads afterwards anyway, but they collect the leads of the people they talk to, and they hit those up right away. Hit those up first because they have that meaningful connection with them. But while they're at the booth, what they try to do is get them to go ahead and schedule an appointment. So we'll break down the numbers. If there's 1,000 people that walk through the show, maybe you can schedule 60 appointments from that show of people who are interested in learning more and having a more meaningful 20, 30, maybe an hour conversation after the show that you aren't able to do during the show. That's an important first step. The second step is that you follow up with them and you connect with them. Make sure that they actually show up and have that appointment. Out of those 60, maybe 15 actually keep their appointment. But now at that point, you have 15 appointments that actually happened of people who met you, who took the time to follow up. Those are very, very likely buyers. And so what we have found is kind of that number, 60 booked appointments, 15 actually happened. 5, 8 of those actually book. And what happened along that process, though, was that couple was just trying to figure out, can we trust this person? Are they someone that come the day of, they're going to be dependable and reliable? And every little action you do, whether it's conscious or subconscious, has an impact on the trust in that process. And just being able to follow up on time, keep your commitment to the appointment, communicate really clearly. All of this is, again, just for the appointment. But if you nail that process, your ability to book greatly increases. And so people who do our shows, we try to encourage them. We never want to sell them false gold. We never want to say, hey, you do our show, you're going to get all these bookings and that's it. But what we do say is, you do our show, you're going to have meaningful conversations with qualified leads and a high quantity of those. And then if you do your part and follow this process, which really is not a hard process, it's just sticking to it, then what we have found is a lot of vendors tend to have success with that. And that complements well to your question, what that couple is looking for when they come, which, yes, they want talent, but at the end of the day, there may be 5 or 6 people that are going to be just as talented, at least in that couple's eyes. But you're the one that they can trust. You didn't try to sell them right away. There wasn't kind of a red flag in their head when they talk to you. You're just trying to get to know them, and they're trying to get to know you. And you facilitated a process in a way that was really well organized so they can do that. So by the time they are ready to book, you have that trust already built. And most people we find don't book at the shows. They book 3 to 6 months after the shows. They use the shows to find their person. But the vendors who keep sending the emails and connecting with them are more likely to get that booking 3 to 6 months later than the people who just came to the show, sent one email afterwards, and then never talked to them again. And so that trust is a critical piece of that process.
And you know what? You said that is so true. And I like that you touched on social media. Social media is great, but remember, so if something that looks like sugar can actually be salt. And
Yeah,
that's what happens. And believe me, we see this all the time. It's like a resume. When you're interviewing somebody, their resume looks fabulous. But then when you sit down and talk to them, their resume doesn't equal who they are. So I think that's the key thing to recognize as well. But you should have a presence. You need to have a digital footprint. There's no question about that. People want to know that you're for real, and I think they want to know that you're aligned with other organizations, no matter what they are. That
sure.
they know that you are committed to the community. I think that's the key thing too. People want to know that even giving back, showing that you've done something with the ASPCA or something makes a big difference. It just adds more
Yeah.
credibility to who you are. So I love what you're saying. These
Right.
nuggets of information I think are important because sometimes as wedding vendors, we're myopic. We think we're going to go to the show and can you guarantee me so many leads? And that's not the case. The
Sure.
case is you have to work the leads. You
Hmm.
know, it's like saying, "Hey, Maria, I want you to officiate my wedding." Great. Now I've got to make sure I've got something to say about the wedding and putting together their script. So you have to put the work in to get the results, and I understand that. Well, I
Well,
have to tell you,
and along those lines too, Maria, another way to put it, well, what we both are saying, it's trust takes time. Like you can't just set up a booth and expect all of a sudden you're going to gain trust with people, and that's what they're looking for. That's what, especially people who come to the show. People who don't care as much about the trust are more willing to book online because that's not a priority to them. The priority of those who are like, can I trust this person? They want to look you in the eyes. They want to meet you. And we have seen time and time again, every show we do has around 1,000 attendees. There's enough people that want that trust and that they come. And so build your sales process on a process that builds trust. And that serves you well and that serves them well.
I love that. That's a great slogan. A great way. First
Yeah.
of all, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. I think the nuggets that you dropped or anything that we've talked about is not just related to the wedding industry. It's
Hmm.
related to business in general. And I think that's the
Yep.
key thing. And having clarity and your vision, developing trust with people, being sincere, then what's happening is everything is going to be rewarded to you when you're coming from that sense of place of doing good. Okay. Because that's what you want to do. You want to do good with people. Um, I can't begin to tell you, thank you so much for coming on. I'd love to have you back again. And if you have a moment, I'd like to just stay on a moment. I'm going to tell everybody. Do you have any last words before I sign off with
Well, I
everybody?
just want to say thank you. Thanks for your heart and sharing and getting this information out to the community. And I just appreciate everyone, especially in our biggest show, that's given us a chance here at the beginning. Like I said, this is a community. Our goal is to steward it well, but people have to take a chance on us and trust us. And we are so incredibly grateful for the 50 plus vendors who gave us a chance at that first show. And as we build towards this next show with 100 plus vendors, we're excited for the referrals we're already getting and the trust that our vendors have given. So we're just grateful for that. But Maria, I appreciate you and thanks for your time having me on.
And everybody, you heard this from Mark. And please, if you know anybody out there that needs to hear this, make sure you share this with them. Again, this is just not limited to the wedding industry. It's just life in general, taking these nuggets of information and just expanding. If you know somebody that needs to hear it, in the meantime, my dear friends, stay healthy, happy, and safe, and spread love.